I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the record show all board members are here except for Mr. Shea, and he'll be here in just a little bit. He's probably parking as we speak. First thing we have is consent agenda. So
I'll make the motion to move the consent agenda.
we have a motion by Supervisor Schultz and second by Groby. Second by Groby. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we have Dana Kim from PACE presentation. I think she's going to be on the phone and give us an update on the Hoff Family Arts Culture Center and programming in the county. Dana, are you out on there?
Is that phone on, Audrey?
I believe it is.
Hello?
Andrew turned it on for me.
Dana? Dana?
The phone is on, but this is Becky Belt.
Yeah. Yeah. Was she calling in? Hey. Sorry. Morning. Oh, no, she's not calling in. She's here.
Oh, hey.
There she is.
Hey,
Dana?
Jeff Bramer, would you grab that door for me, please?
Yes, well, it's just, I got it, that deal, so the door kept locking. I don't know why the door's locked. Shouldn't be locked. Is it? You want to check and see if it's locked outside?
I will.
Garfield? Pick it open.
I got my friend. It's locked.
Okay, first, drop that there. Is both of them locked?
I believe they're both locked, yes.
They're both locked?
Mm-hmm. Because Candy tried that one earlier.
Able to get in that one.
Give Dana a couple minutes. Are you needing,
Hey, Dana, do you need to get on the PowerPoint at all?
I don't think so, unless you want me to present something. Because you guys have the presentation, I think. Okay.
Well, set that.
Had to reflect on it.
Because we don't have his yet.
I got to correct a little bit.
Have his?
We have to get them to us before we can put them in there.
What's that?
You don't have your book.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's put it here. Oh, you provided it to me, it's just a
Right.
lump sum, it doesn't show any of the line items or nothing.
Oh, you wanted the, okay,
I want the printout.
okay.
I'll get ahold of Doug and have him get those numbers too.
Yeah.
Morning.
He hasn't had his final,
I'd like to see his budget.
yeah, yeah. I think his budget changed though. I remember.
70,000.
His?
40, 45 or 50 of them salaries.
Is that right? Okay, you ready to go?
Sure.
Okay. Is she gonna, was she gonna PowerPoint or?
Yeah, I emailed something yesterday.
Okay.
If you want me to present, I can, but I thought you guys had it.
I'll put it up.
Oh, no, we,
Okay,
we
awesome.
have it all.
Oh, wonderful.
I have it.
Yeah, I'll share my screen.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so Apple TV. I can remember how to do it. She's like a little.
She has a clicker?
Is it?
Oh,
yeah.
That's, I thought I saw it over there.
So you get the code. Does this look like what you sent us?
No?
That's
Hold
but
on.
it's an attachment to, if you want to go down to the attachment that Andrew sent.
Oh, he sent us an email?
No,
Well,
it's in the Dropbox.
in the
Justin.
Dropbox.
Maybe I should have just.
You're okay, it's all right.
Oh, okay.
That's now going to the Dropbox.
There it is.
Top right.
Yep. There you go.
Perfect.
Okay.
Just tell me next slide. and I'll-
Okay, I will. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me today and letting me give you guys an update. Pot County and the Board of Supervisors have wonderful supporters of the Hoff Family Arts and Culture Center and PACE, Pottawattamie Arts, Culture, and Entertainment. So I know Brian, we've met before at some other projects, but I'm going to give a quick overview of PACE. And for the rest of you, I think all you guys have heard from me before. But go ahead and go to the next slide. Again, we are a 501c3 with our mission to support and uplift arts and culture organizations in Council Bluffs and Pottawattamie County. Ultimately, the vision for us is to not only be an umbrella organization to support those other arts and culture nonprofits, but we ourselves also provide programming, not only for Council Bluffs, for the Hoff Center, but throughout the county. We are an iOS Foundation initiative. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So PACE was originally started way back in the day. I think conversations started in the early 2000s about this bigger vision and concept for our community. And really over 20 community visioning studies and different research was done around our community. And ultimately it showed that arts and culture organizations were weak and they needed support. And really they wanted an organization that would honor the past of all those wonderful organizations that existed, but understand that we need to build for the future. They wanted somebody that understood a sustained and diversified funding structure, meaning a lot of the arts and culture organizations in the area, they had wonderful passion and wonderful missions. They just didn't know how to fundraise appropriately. And a lot of times they either didn't have a home, or if they didn't have a home or they did have a home, the roof was literally crumbling. For example, Chanticleer Community Theater. And so through everything that came out of this, the visioning said we want an organization, PACE, to help oversee this and really to build a new arts and culture center. So, ta-da, we finally opened the Hoff Family Arts and Culture Center in February of 2020. It is over a 95,000 square foot facility. It encompasses the McCormick Harvesting International Company building. It was built in 1894. Basically, it was an abandoned 4-story warehouse just south of here. And in addition to that, we built a brand new addition to it, which was a performing arts center. So everything in the building encompasses what the community wanted from those visioning studies. So it has a theater, it has rehearsal studios, it has a teaching kitchen, it has a pottery studio, it has an education floor, and it has a gallery. So it's a big, beautiful building. I would also note it's one of the largest additions on a historic property in the U.S. So the project itself is unique in what we were able to provide. So here you can see some of the ballet studios. That's the primary ballet studio. You can see the gallery on the right-hand side. Lower left-hand side, you can see the education floor. So we have 3 large classrooms for classes, as well as you can see the kitchen space for kitchen council. And here are some of the images from the grand openings in February. The upper left-hand side is Council Bluffs Children's Theater, which has a rich history here in town. American Midwest Ballet, which is on the right upper-hand side. Canesville Symphony Orchestra, and Chanticleer Community Theater. So ultimately, in this building, you have 5 arts and culture organizations that, when it first started, didn't really have a home, or their home was crumbling. Looking specifically about the area that we have named after Pottawattamie County, this is the Pottawattamie County Patio. So as part of your support for PACE and helping with the original fundraising for the capital project, we actually named the patio after Pottawattamie County. And given COVID, we've used it a lot this year. A lot of our programming has been moved outside. So you can see it's a beautiful space. You can see some of our kiddos on our Saturday pottery classes was out on the patio, as well as some of our painting on the patio series that we incorporated this year. So I would be remiss not to mention COVID-19. So obviously in February 2020, we had a wonderful grand openings. We had a donor event where we had over 280 donors present. We had PACE Interactive, which will be our annual fundraiser for not only ourselves, for the building, but also the nonprofits in the building. We had over 500 people attend that. And then a week and a half later, we had a free open community house for everybody in the community that wanted to come see the space. We had over 850 people come to that community open house. But ultimately, we had a ribbon cutting with the chamber on March 13th, Friday the 13th, and 2 days later, we had to shut the doors due to COVID. So we made it through 2 performances of Music Man before we had to shut the doors again because of the government regulations. The state literally shut us down. We were closed off and on basically for about 6 months during 2020 because of COVID, whether it was because the government said we couldn't have the Performing Arts Center open, or we actually had COVID in the building with not only with even staff or maybe even in cast members for Shannon Clear. So we had to shut the doors again. I think wherever there's people at this point, there's probably going to be COVID. So we had to make some decisions along the way. However, I would say we were probably the most aggressive out of all of the arts and culture organizations in the community as far as trying to do programming, even in the COVID environment. So in June, we reopened with very strict protocols in place. I would say, go ahead and scroll back up, Justin. There's a video there, so you can see, if you wanted to, you could play that video. I don't know if it'll play for you here or not. So this is one of the videos that we created during our closure. Let's see if we can turn on the sound too. So you guys can also get some of a better view of the building. So again, you can see the Performing Arts Hall there, the theater. Big, beautiful space, seats 281. Right size for our community, so whenever we do have shows and we're back to normal, we can have some wonderful shows. There's kitchen council space, which is the incubator for food startups for our community. So they anticipate about 12 to 20 food startups out of that space. Here's some of the main ballet studios. We also have 5 artist studios, so we have a videographer, music producer, sculptor, and here's the gallery, wonderful space that now houses the Grant Wood murals that were originally here and down in the lobby. So just gorgeous space. I know some of you have had the chance to come and see it, but of course we would love to have you back out when you feel safe to come visit. But really, it's something that our county and our community should really be proud of. I've had people tell me it's on the scale of something they would see on the coast in New York City, and people walk in the door and say it feels like we're in New York City. So, of course, I would love for you guys to come visit. Scott has been there a couple times. Lynn's come to visit me, but again, I would welcome you to come visit and do a socially safe tour. We did officially just reopen again after on Friday night we had a gallery opening. We have a wonderful artist, Jave Yoshimoto, who does sort of a wood laser engraved installation. It's a very contemporary exhibit. We would love for you guys to come check that out. But I wanted to point out some of the programming that we were able to do even in the COVID world. So here, for example, is Southwest Iowa Art Tour. You obviously notice that everybody's wearing masks and trying to be as socially distanced as possible. This was in September. We had over 250 people that day, which is a wonderful crowd considering. And that's about on par of what we would do on a normal Saturday, at least in the past, for Southwest Iowa Art Tour. So even though we had restrictions in place, I think people felt safe and they felt welcome coming out to see the space. At that event, we featured over 18 local artists throughout the county, and they showed their folks. And then we also had free pottery classes for kiddos. Go ahead and go to the next one. Another big project that we've been working on with the county is the Goldfish Finch gates, where, yes, and Brian was part of that, as was Scott. So we finally got that installation done. That project was slightly delayed because there was flooding, and so it took a while for the installation to actually happen because it took, the bridge was delayed. So that officially was unveiled in October and actually got quite a bit of press coverage as well. So it was picked up by Nonpareil, Omaha World Herald, and it was picked up nationally as well. So wonderful example of us working together as a county to be able to put that together and get our installation out on the trail system. And what I love about this, I think we're going to try to use this as sort of the model for us moving forward of continuing to look at where else throughout the county we can do some public art installations as a county as a whole, not only with the Pot County Supervisors, but also the folks working on the trail system. So again, quick pace programming for 2020. Go ahead and scroll down, Justin. So even though we had socially distanced programming, so for example, we limited class sizes to 6 to 8 people. We limited our speaker series to 25 people. We limited gallery openings to 75. We had quite a few people still through the door this year that felt safe enough to come out and visit us. However, there was quite a few people that didn't feel safe enough to visit us. So we started a digital series. So pretty much anything that we were doing in the building, we were also trying to capture digitally. So again, we had open gallery hours on Thursday nights during the summer and the fall. We had over 250 people visit during that. We had over 75 reduced capacity programming events, including our speaker series. We had over 36,000 views on our video and our digital series, so people are still taking in our content, even though they haven't been able to come visit us or they didn't feel safe visiting us. We had over 75 kids participate in our weekly PACE pottery classes. So we do that. Typically, we did that out on the patio during the summertime, and then once it got cold enough, we brought them back inside. And then again, we talked about the art fits. We worked closely with Frontier Trails, Golden Hills RNC, of course, the Pot County Board of Supervisors, Planning and Development, and the Conservation Committee for that installation. And Kat Irwin is accountable as the artist. We wanted to pick somebody local. We had 2 annual PACE youth summer camps focused on exploring different cultures. And then we had 3 new gallery exhibits. So up on that 3rd floor, we had Lines with Power and Purpose, Council's History Through Art, the works of Grant Wood and George Simons, where we were able to feature those murals. And then Barbara Paints People. He is an Iowa grad that we wanted to feature in that space. And then we already talked about the Southwest Iowa Art Tour we had, and that was in conjunction with, I think there was 8 or 9 area communities throughout Pottawattamie County and Southwest Iowa that participated in that tour. So as you can imagine, the Pottawattamie County museums weren't as active this year as we would have hoped because of COVID. However, we did try to reach out to some and try to make some connections there. We had also talked about possibly bringing in some of their collections for storage in our archival space or having them out on exhibit. What I would say is I don't think they're quite ready for us yet. However, we did meet with specifically Nishna Heritage Museum. The gentleman that runs our programming and galleries, he has a background in museums, and so he helped them with some design and layout in the Nishna Heritage Museum as far as guidance on their collection and how they should display it. And then so we're still working on it. They're not quite ready to share with us, but eventually we would love to be able to include them in our 4th floor gallery exhibitions and make sure that we're showcasing some of the county treasures. The other thing I would note is that we have archival storage. We had talked about possibly even bringing some of the historical documents from the county and from the board that you're storing here currently that you might want to store in our archival storage. We have postponed that series until the middle of 2021, not only because of COVID, but we actually had some physical issues with the archival storage. We had some leaking, and so we had to have some construction work on that space. So we were holding off on bringing anything precious into that space until we're sure it's safe. So we'll continue to work with the county museums and see what else they'll need throughout 2021, as long as they feel safe meeting with us. Okay? So again, thank you to Pot County Board of Supervisors. Obviously, you helped not only with the capital campaign, but you helped with operation support. And it's been critical, especially during this COVID timeline, because we obviously were planning on a lot of revenues coming in through ticket sales and bar revenues and rentals, and we just weren't able to make that happen this year on the level that we wanted to. But I would say we're surviving the pandemic, and hopefully during 2021, we'll only get stronger. Now, do you have any questions for me?
Two real quick.
Sure.
What bridge are those Goldfish gates on?
It is, if you head down Railroad,
L34.
yeah, the Railroad Highway, and it's about 5.8 miles down that Railroad Highway just off of,
First bridge.
Yep, it's the first bridge. You actually have to go past the bridge and then you have to go park. It's not safe to park on the highway either, and be careful not to park on the,
Yeah.
you know what I'll do? I'll send you a map.
He's familiar with that.
Is it on both ends or one end?
It's on both ends. So there's one side of the gates show the sunset and one side of the gates show the sunrise.
Okay.
Yep.
And then when do you anticipate your events starting back?
We're trying. So even Friday night, we try to reopen again. What I would say is the main stage is what causes us issues, is that we tried to do some main stage productions. Both KSO, we did their winter concert. We tried to do it in November, but again, we had COVID on staff, so we had to shut the facility down. We were still able to record the production and put it out online. And then we also tried to do the Chanticleer 1941's Christmas Carol. But since they had somebody on the cast get COVID, we decided it was not safe to have an audience for that. So we recorded that and we put it out online. We're hoping April. So we have KSO, the orchestra has a concert in April, which we're hoping that we'll be able to have again. It will be a socially distanced audience though. So it takes the audience size from 281 down to about 80 people in the audience. We're also looking to do a Chanticleer production in April or May. And again, it's going to be a smaller cabaret series. I think they're going to call it Women and Wine. But again, we're looking to get people on that main stage again. That was always the model when it came to this facility, is that we thought the performing arts side, that main stage production would drive the foot traffic and the people into the building. But for the longest time, there was not even any regulations out about how do you keep performing arts performers safe. And we were, case in point, we had a cast member get COVID-19, and so we had to have the entire cast quarantine for 2 weeks. So we're trying to do it safe, but we're hoping April will be when we can officially have people in those seats in the Performing Arts Center.
So if you have 80 people in the seats,
Yep.
who determines who those 80 are?
It's ticketed sales.
What are the tickets?
It depends on the production. KSO, Kanesville Symphony Orchestra tickets run about $10, whereas the Chanticleer performance, it runs anywhere from $10 to $22.
Okay. How are you doing budget-wise?
Budget-wise, I would say we took a hit. I would estimate that we lost about $300,000 in COVID revenues. However, we're surviving. So we did have to make some staffing changes. So when COVID hit back in March, we implemented a spending freeze and a hiring freeze. Because at that point in time, we had just opened, we had planned on ramping up staffing, but we didn't need to. So I implemented a hiring and spending freeze. But at the end of December, we've been paying for a lot of staff, and we just haven't been open enough to keep all of them employed. So we furloughed our food and beverage manager for 2 months until we can get that bar back open and we start having people into the building. And then we terminated our performing arts coordinator because, again, we haven't had any main stage productions for the last 8 months. So we've shifted some of the staffing around, and we're making it work. I would say, though, the CARES Act helped a ton. We were able to get a first-round PPP loan to help with wages, as well as we also received money through the state. So we got money, we got about $25,000 through the CARES Act through 2 different disbursements. We got $16,000 and $9,000, and then we were also awarded another $21,000 from the state for January through the CARES Act.
That PPP loan that you received, will that turn into a grant?
Yeah, it's already been forgiven. It's already been forgiven. We've already gotten that forgiven, and we're submitting for our round 2 PPP loan Wednesday.
Okay. And then how are your fundraising efforts going?
They're actually going okay. I think I just hired a development director last week, so I will have help getting through the rest of 2021. But we're going to make it work. I would love to have about 10 more staff, but until we get open again, we're going to just make it work.
I don't believe we've had any juror.
We haven't. We're going to, no, not yet. So again, I think you guys have heard that ultimately you'll be using our facility for jury selection as well, because you'll be able to use our theater for socially distanced jury selection.
I appreciate that.
Yes, no problem. Yep.
We are out of gaming appropriating about $50,000
Correct.
each year, and that doesn't go into operations, though, does it?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, so your first 50,000 went towards the capital campaign, which helped build the building. And that was important for us to be able to show not only state but federal funders that you guys believed in the project and you were supporting the project financially. But now the 50,000 goes towards operations. Yeah.
Okay. I just want Brian
Yep.
to know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We did a 5-year thing on that, right? So we should be coming up on that 5 years.
Yeah, I'll have to go check your LOI on that one.
I'm pretty sure.
I could probably look it up right now too. Actually, I don't think it had an end date, but I'll have to double check.
We put a 5-year limit on it, and
Okay.
then we bring back for review is what we decided.
Okay.
And I think this is your 5th year.
It does have, originally, it did have, when we did it, if gaming ever went away.
Yes, that was the one caveat. I think it said that in there, or at least that was intended.
Right. But the city is, I think city's still 52, right?
Yes, well, they ran into some administrative issues this last year, but we need to go present to them again, similar to how we present to you guys about getting back into the rotation.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're over 5 this year.
And you're helping, I don't know if you correctly, but with the trails, the arts trails project or process or whatever.
Yeah, I think, again, I think what we did originally with this model was for us to be able to replicate for future years.
Yeah.
I think we understand that it may not be something that we can do every year, but I'm thinking every other year that we could probably look at doing some sort of installation.
The city's looking at doing something similar, I would think, right?
Yeah, I think they're working on that First Avenue project, and they've also asked us to help see if we can help with some of that as well.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Dana? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Hopefully, 2021.
I hope so too, and thank you for Scott and Lynn. Of course, they participate in our board meetings and provide excellent counsel, so appreciate all your support.
Okay. Thank you. You made it in. We thought we were
I know, I looked out my door and they were shoveling, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this work.
Well, I was calling on the phone, then you showed up, I thought, wow, worked out good. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Darren.
Okay, Jeff Lorenz, President, Cost Recovery Services, discussion and/or decision to approve cost advisory service report. Jeff, are you on the phone?
I am, sir.
Okay.
This is Jeff Lorenzo.
Okay, thank you. You want to give us we got a new board member, and you want to give a little overview of what your process is and what you do for the county?
Sure. We prepare what's called an indirect cost allocation plan or essential services cost allocation plan. And in essence, what we're trying to do there is we're trying to take costs that are borne by one department or various central service departments in the county, but they actually assist all of the county departments. The best example I can give is the county auditor's office. They prepare the payroll for all of the county departments. They also do all the accounting for all the county departments. The people in the auditor's office get paid every 2 weeks, so there's a cost to that. So what we do is we determine what that cost is through this cost allocation plan, and then we allocate it to all the departments. Sorry, my computer just went blank here. Anyways, what we're doing at that point is we're looking specifically at the local DHS office, and what they do is the DHS office is what I call supported by the county but employed by the state. The people that work there are state employees, but the county has to provide the building, the space, utilities, all that type of stuff. Since the state realizes that they have the county providing that stuff, they share in those costs with you. So they'll reimburse you some of those costs if you have a central service cost allocation plan that's done in accordance with the Part 2 in the CFR Part 200. It used to be Office of Management and Budget, OMB 87. It was codified a few years ago into the Federal Register. So that's why that has changed. It's to CFR Part 200. Basically, we prepare that cost allocation plan in accordance with all of those regulations, and then you all get reimbursed back for some of those costs. Other indirect costs that go into the cost allocation plan are building costs like depreciation, also building operation costs, utilities, lights, those types of things, insurance costs, general liability, workers' comp, property, IT costs go into that. The building and grounds costs go into that, which I said was the utilities. I can't remember if I said data processing, IT costs go into that, the auditor's office. And then the biggest lion's share of the costs that go into that are the actual county attorney. We survey the county attorney annually for their efforts for China, children in need of assistance cases, basically any effort they put out towards the DHS office in support of that office that's not juvenile delinquency. And so that's the biggest portion of the indirect costs that actually go into that. Once we have that cost plan all done, which I believe that you have received, well, I know you've received it, hopefully you have it put in front of you. If not, we've identified $364,000 in indirect costs associated with the local DHS program, and based on fiscal year 2020, that will be recovered during fiscal year 2022. 33% of those costs get reimbursed by the state. That's at the FFP rate or Fed Financial Participation rate. So we're anticipating you're going to get back a little over $120,000 for the work that we've done. The fee that we charge you for that is $7,600. So a pretty good return on your investment there. We do the same thing for 93 other counties in the state. We've been doing it for well over 25, 30 years. Cost advisory services, I used to work for another company. We stepped out, created cost advisory services. We cut fees back in 2004, I think, by about 35%. And I don't think you're even paid as much now today as you were back, 17 years ago for the same services. We're an Iowa-based company. We work solely in the state of Iowa. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I don't know if y'all have any questions.
Jeff, this is Tim Whitman. Yep. When you look at our total reimbursement of $120,000, what was it last year? You have that? Last year
it was down, and because I actually spoke with you all back in June. We did the same kind of thing because your indirect costs had gone down, and that was basically due to the fact of a carry forward from a prior year. And the attorney effort having gone down in FY19. And so I believe your recoveries that are going on right now during FY21 are around 86,000. But in 2022, based on the FY20 cost plan, it's going to be back up in that 120,000 range.
So it's 86,000. Well, do you have what it was the year before? Was it around 120, 110?
The year before, I think, was around 129. And that was 18. So let me think about this. That was FY18 that would have been recovered during FY20. And that was about $129,000 in recoveries. That was $393,000 in indirect costs identified with carry forward at that point.
And Jeff, Scott Belt, usually the lion's share is out of the attorney's office when there's that variance in the monies, isn't it?
Yeah. And because this is there's a skip year feature in the recovery of it, so FY20 is usually recovered in FY22, FY19 is usually recovered in FY21. At the end of each of those years, we actually do a reconciliation of what the actual costs were versus what was actually recovered, and there could be an over recovery or an under recovery, and that will have an impact on the amount of recovery for that following year. And so that's what we run into. We run into some negative recoveries, some negative carry forward amounts, which decrease the recovery in that future year. When that happens, like if there's a big change, say for example, I don't know, say your attorney effort overall is around 10%, and if it drops to like 8%, it's going to be about a 2-year time frame when that catches, if the attorney effort goes back up, there's going to be a negative carry forward in there. That takes about 2 years to clear itself through that whole reconciliation process because of that skip year feature. But it appears that the attorney effort to go back up in FY20, and so those recoveries have gone back up substantially, and there is no negative carry forward in that amount. Well, I take that back. There's a little negative carry forward, but not as much as there used to be.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Hey, Jeff, Tim Wickman again. So if we lost, let's just call it $40,000 in reimbursement costs, almost all of that was because we weren't able to recover attorney efforts, or the efforts weren't there?
So in theory, you over recovered. So you recovered it. It's just kind of for lack of a better term, a payback. But so it's not really like you lost any money. You're getting recovered whatever your actual indirect costs were, but because there's a skip year feature in it, there's sometimes those negative carry forwards that can decrease it year over year.
I don't know if I understand your question, because it would have been typically it would have been a difference in the county attorneys doing their work, and there would have been less of that work, which would have affected the amount of money that we would have cost recovered typically.
That's correct. And to give you another example of something like that, this was a number of years ago. We used to work for Worth County up in North Central Iowa. And basically their attorney effort was really, really low. It was minimal. And they were recovering about $800 a year. The way our contract is, we get 50% of that up to a specific amount, which is a $7,600. So we only get $7,600 on that $120,000 you're recovering. At that time we were getting like $400 on $800. So they were getting $800, paying us $400. Didn't make a whole lot of sense for us to be working for them at that point. And we sat down and had a conversation with them. And so we ceased our contract at that point. About 4 or 5 years later after that, they actually put a casino in up there on the interstate, and that was in Worth County. And a year or two after that, we went back up and started talking to the county attorney. Their efforts that they expended on DHS at that point had increased, and it became more viable at that point. So there's factors in there that can determine. I'm not saying casinos are bad. I'm just saying that there appeared to be more effort on the county attorney at that point. Again, this was years ago, and the support they put out. So, I mean, the county attorney effort can go up and down. Years ago, I think, was it Buena Vista County that Shelby Louise? I mean, this is probably 20 years ago. There was a lot of effort that was put out towards that. So there's certain things, that the county attorney does that can increase or decrease their effort toward that local DHS office. And again, that's why we ask them every year what their effort is out towards that.
Well, if you can figure.
So it's not like you're losing money. It's just that you haven't got it. that you haven't had the expenses. Because this is basically expense reimbursement is what it is.
Jeff, if you can figure out how we can get the state to pay for the courts and indirect costs, that'd be great.
Yeah, that question's been asked of us a number of times. That's anything that we necessarily get involved in. There's code requirements on that, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that wouldn't be difficult for us to figure out what those costs are.
Nope.
And we have the majority of them already in the cost plan. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. We got any other questions for Jeff? The report, Jeff, did you send that actually to the auditor's office, or where did the report?
Yeah, that goes to Melvin and Becky. Typically what we've done in years past is we send 2 envelopes. We send one to the supervisors and one to the auditors. Due to the pandemic, we haven't made visits since a year ago, well, since last March. And we're also trying to not send physical stuff, so we are emailing, and we're emailing to the county auditor.
Okay.
So if you guys don't have that in your minutes,
No,
I forwarded
that
that stuff to, I forwarded it to Andrew.
Yeah, no, we got it. We got it.
Okay. Is that Becky?
Yeah, that's Becky on the phone.
Yes, hi, Jeff.
So, thank you, Becky, for doing that. I appreciate that.
No, thank you for all you do.
Any other questions for Jeff? Okay. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you all very much. You have a great day. Stay safe.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Scott, do we need to approve his contract?
After, I didn't know he had a contract. We
pay him
right.
$7,500 a year.
Or is it just to approve the services report?
Report, that's what's on the agenda.
Okay. I'll move that for you.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Supervisor Wickman made the motion, and Supervisor Shea seconded. Any other discussion? I will check and see, based on your question, if it's a multi-year. We should have asked him before he got off. Hey, Becky, are you on there still?
Yes, I am.
Is that a contract, a multi-year contract with,
I'll have to look.
Okay.
I know we always have them do it, but I guess I've never, it's been a long time since I've looked to see what the contract, or most likely it's there at the board.
Okay.
But
Okay, well, I'll check.
I know we always approve paying him, but.
Yeah.
It sounds like we're in the Grand Canyon, Scott. Well, maybe we all are.
Okay, we'll find it, we'll check into that, and then we'll get it back on the agenda and get Jeff on there if we need to. Okay, moving right along, Garfield Coleman, Risk Manager, Smith Davis Insurance, Jeff Kramer, and discussion and or decision on renewal of county property.
We didn't do the call
You
for
did
the
the-
vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You did the motion in the second.
I'm sorry. All those in favor of the cost recovery report approval, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. Garfield Coleman, Risk Manager, Smith Davis Insurance, discussion and or decision on renewal of county property casualty insurance package with ICAP. Garfield.
It's that time of the year again for annual renewal. One of the things that didn't go in the package, one of the things that Smith Davis put together to cover some numbers on the difference on the cost from last year to this year. So you have a copy.
You said they usually give it to us in color.
Say again?
I said they usually give it to us in color.
I use that.
I give that to all of you last week.
I thought so.
I saw it.
I didn't know if it changed or not. Okay.
It's that time of year for the annual renewal of ICAP insurance. A couple things on there. 5 items on the right side of the note. And I don't know, I'll probably let Jeff go over that piece.
Sure.
Since he put that together. We just have a slight increase in the cost, and that's due to the renovation here, but I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me today, guys. Excited that the renewal is here. We also have some additional information to share with you on the upcoming renewal for the work comp later. If you notice, we've got asterisk number 1 up here. We did increase the value, so that is one of the causes for the increase in cost or contribution. We also moved some of the miscellaneous property and EDP hardware and software was reclassified by ICAP just to make it more easy. EDP was kind of an old-fashioned term, and now everybody has computers, so they just figured it would be better to be moving that to personal property just to make it easier. Number 4, you know that I was hit with a derecho. The reason for this is the reinsurance market is a lot more difficult now than it has been in the past. That being said, the reinsurance company is not willing to offer the $50 million limits as they had before. This isn't as large of a issue for us as it appears. The flood insurance that we had was not for flood insurance on the Narrows, the flood insurance that we would need where you would be required by a bank to get flood insurance. That's in Zone A or Zone AE. This is for flood insurance for any of our properties that are outside of those zones. So going from $50 to $30 million is, it's considerable, but it still, I think, provides us good coverage. The last thing there is the 1% increase. So going from that's $550,000 to $555,000 on our package policy. That's pretty good. Knowing that all the things that have gone on in the hardening of the market. Are there any questions on this package?
What, okay, yeah, Jeff, real quick, so the building went up 5 million, roughly. We had that building insured before we started the renovation, right?
Yes, we have village risk on it.
No, I mean, the county owned the building prior to us. It's always been in our policy, right?
Been covered.
Okay. And if we are fortunate enough to take down the old services building over there, that's in here too?
That is correct.
And all the other county buildings that are around. So that would come off if that building comes down in the near future then?
Yes, we could take that off the
Or
policy.
do they look at reevaluating all the properties every so many years, or?
They had just gotten done with
About 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
And how ICAP works is they'll go out and they'll inspect and they'll do an appraisal on all the properties, and then give you actually give you coverage for a year. They'll endorse your policy, but they won't charge you for it. So I believe it was last year that we actually got charged for that, the appraisals and the increased, I guess, evaluation on those buildings.
Okay, and then on the number for unscheduled miscellaneous property, is that number just, where does that number come from? Is that 722, 776?
Unscheduled.
Unscheduled property is all the property that's inside of the building and stuff like that, like office furniture, chairs and stuff like that,
Right.
equipment. That's,
But
that's,
it doesn't, I mean, does it stay constant then?
yes, unless we add more property, more value, that's getting added to the book.
Okay.
And what is personal property?
Personal property is actually your desks, tables, chairs, computers and stuff. The unscheduled is more of an inland marine. It's anything that could be on trucks. It's anything at the roads department that you know, they have all those, the miscellaneous, and this is the small stuff. We'll schedule anything over $10,000, but anything that's small, under $10,000, we don't have scheduled. So it's all the moving parts. And and through ICAP, we were able to actually put a code on there instead of specifically saying this needs to be in the Avoca shop. We put 9898, and it allowed us to put that miscellaneous scheduled equipment countywide, so we can insure it everywhere. So.
And what was it before? How was it scheduled before?
It was scheduled under that, but it was scheduled we had inland marine for that Avoca location, the shop. We had some for maybe Botna Bend. We had it everywhere. This way it gives us more limits and more freedom to move the stuff from location to location. Does that make sense?
It was very site-specific before?
Very site-specific. It was site-specific, so the equipment had to be at that site if it got damaged for them to cover it. So now if we take that equipment and we move it from Avoca to Hitchcock, the equipment still is covered, no matter what the case may be.
Okay.
So it would have to be at that property to actually get the coverage on that. It also helps us in case, let's say one of the shops is burnt to the ground, and you had an influx of equipment there, and you didn't notify, because sometimes things happen, and the insurance agent isn't notified that equipment's been moved. So this is really kind of it protects you, protects the county.
What was up 7 million?
No, it's not up. It went from what he's talking about, miscellaneous and unscheduled personal property.
Yes.
It went from 722 to 7. It stayed the same. Those are limits.
So, Garfield, aren't we tracking assets now?
Yeah, we're tracking assets.
So are we tracking the 5,000 above, or what are we using? What number are we using? The number
For the insurance purposes, 10,000 and above. For 5,000 is for the state.
for the state?
5,000 is for the state.
Okay, I thought I had heard 5,000. That's why.
5,000 state and 10,000 for the insurance.
Okay. So, any other questions on the property casualty insurance package?
If there's no other questions, move on to the second page that Garfield gave you. And this is really great news. As you all are aware, we had a very difficult situation May 1st of 2017. The aftermath of that was very impactful to our experience mod. Our experience mod before the event was looking at what's that? 0.74. 0.74 and the year before that a 0.70. Our experience mod, this current term is a 1.16. It went down, whereas it's scheduled to go down to a 0.73. With that 1.16, we lost a lot of credits from IMWCA. We're getting them back, and it looks like then some. So we have actually gone from 25% scheduled credits to 46. With the improvement in the experience mod, our total contributions for work comp will be going from $650,000 to less than $313,000, and that's a July renewal. And this was the estimate that we provided the insurance committee a week ago.
Was there those disease policy limit and disease each employee, has that always been on there?
That's always been on there. Matter of
Okay.
fact, I have never seen a claim in my lifetime on any of those. That's the statutory portion of the work comp policy.
Okay. Any questions on the work comp renewal? That's a great number. There's not much more we can do, Garfield, is there?
But I think the lowest you can get on the experience mileage, I think it's like 0.59,
Yeah, it's
point
like
six.
0.59.
So there's more we can do
Yeah.
to bring the 0.73 down to at least a point.
You know, I will
0.6.
point out the one thing that really makes a difference on when you talk about work comp and is the lost time claims. It's getting people back to work. In 2019, you had 0 lost time claims, and in 2020 so far we have 2 lost time claims. That's awesome. That's fantastic, and that has to do with Garfield and the supervisors really asking all the departments to be concerned about safety, and then getting people back to work. Even if it's limited duty, getting them back. I understand they can't get back into that truck, working around the shop, cleaning up and stuff. That's fantastic. And IMWCA, when they presented to the insurance committee, could not say, they couldn't stop praising the work that you've done here in Pottawattamie County.
Okay, on Garfield, you set the bar pretty high. You're gonna get us another 300,000 next year?
I didn't say a dollar figure, I said.
Yeah. Okay, any other?
Yeah, Jeff, before you go, in Garfield, that number, that 336, that could change 10 to 20,000 once the audit's complete, is that correct?
That's correct.
So.
You mean the audit of the employee
The payroll audit.
Oh, okay. Who's doing the audit?
IMWCA comes down and do the audits. They look at payroll numbers.
I thought they'd done that already, okay.
When will that
But it
happen?
shouldn't change that much.
When will that audit happen?
Yes.
The audit happens after the renewal, so it'll be after July. And what'll happen is these are based off estimates. So we base it off of estimated payroll, and they'll say, okay, well, this is what he estimated. How much payroll really did you have during the policy term?
Right.
And if you had more, there's gonna be a bill. If you had less, it's a happier day.
So what they do, they normally send payroll, they sheet to fill out with all the payroll data on it, then payroll sends it back, then they come down and do their part.
So if we, Garfield, this is to you. If we budgeted, say, $315,000.
How much?
315 in the budget would be safe.
I think you'd be safe, but I would try to go with like 320.
Yeah,
I'll give it just a little bit more, because we're at 312 now, and you say 315, you're only giving yourself about 3,000 difference there.
I will have,
What we
and I
don't want to
think
do is budget that three, oh, I see what you're doing. I went the other way. I looked at the reduction.
yeah, the
And move that,
336.
and
Oh, yeah,
move
that's the
move
difference
that
from-
down 10,
Yeah.
$15,000, $20,000. Or you could raise that up, whatever you want to do.
Tim, I should have, the board for IMWCA who approves these credits will meet on the 29th. So February 1st, I should be able to have a more solid figure for you. This is an estimate based off of what the experience bond in that calculation and what they're hoping to do. But with reinsurance being the way it is, the board, I'm not sure, if they don't approve it, I would hate to lead you guys astray. So if I can, I'll just communicate with Garfield after that board meeting and let you know if those credits that they want to get approved.
Okay, I'm just a little more concerned on the audit side
Okay.
of that costing us a little more money. once that's complete. You said that won't be done till,
Yeah, that audit's gonna be,
yeah, that's where I'm at. But I appreciate that, Jeff, very much.
Audits after July, right?
yeah, right.
So we'll get
So
a.
it'll probably be closer to
Did
August.
we
I think it,
get this past year in August, did we get a bill or did we get a credit? What,
say that again, I couldn't hear you.
the audit, is the audit the same time every year pretty much?
Yes. Yeah, one,
So in July of 2020 or August of 2020, they did an audit.
what they do, they either give you a credit
Right.
or they give you a,
Debit.
the difference.
Yeah, did they, what happened then?
I'd have to get back to you on that, Scott.
I don't remember.
I don't have that in front of me.
Okay. Okay.
So it's pretty good news anyway.
Yeah, it's down.
Yeah,
I think he created a credit last year.
okay. So can I get a motion to?
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Whitman. And seconded by Supervisor Schultz to approve renewal of the county property casual insurance package with ICAP. Any other discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good
Good
job.
news.
I'll give this to Andrew for you to have you sign it.
Okay.
And then we can get it. All right, Cap.
You got it.
Thank you. We take 5 minute break.
5 minute break?
Yeah.
Okay. 5 minute break. You can just keep that going. Hey, Garfield?
Did you call me?
Mm-hmm, he did.
Second.
That was up in the contract.
Yeah. So. Is this, that one you just got?
Hey, Becky. Here is. Here's what Doug provided us. It has no history on it. So can we tell him to put those numbers in here?
Yeah, he has to put them in here, because otherwise, that's how we get it.
Right.
We have an Excel spreadsheet, and all the departments heads have to put.
Yeah.
How come we didn't do the departments? Thank you. Because we haven't asked them for it yet. Thanks. We've been focusing on our county fund budgets.
I need this. Do I need to call him?
I know, but a lot of that's.
Not necessarily.
I'll send him an email telling we need to do another type of system as well.
Okay. I
This
appreciate
doesn't
it.
affect our county funds at all. It's on fund for this.
What if somebody wants to get it? I need to take a look at what I got.
No, but that's not gonna matter.
It will to me.
It's not
What's
in
clear?
budget funds.
It's
got
county
its own
tax dollars
fund.
that fund this.
It's a certain amount. I'll look at it, I'll call him
Okay.
or email him.
Well, how are you?
Good.
I get my second shot Monday.
Do ya? How'd the first one go?
Not bad.
You got Pfizer, right?
Right.
Good
I
deal.
guess we're taking a break, I don't know.
Yeah, they took 5.
Oh, they did?
We gotta probably prop these doors open till they figure out how to unlock them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Good morning, Scott.
Good. Good. Get some snow.
A little bit.
Oops, sorry. Okay.
That location you're gonna have out to Oakland, is that the community building or is it the clinic?
The one I was talking about will be the CHI clinic.
The clinic?
Yep.
Is there a pharmacy in addition to the clinic out in Oakland?
There's a pharmacy out there, yes.
In a Vulcan?
Oakland.
Oakland.
Oh, yeah. Bill's been there quite a while.
Yeah.
Is he part of it or not?
No,
Okay. Where's, I can't picture where that's at.
it's right, almost right across the street.
Across the street,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. But he's not part of it now.
The article in the paper said the other day there was a pharmacy in a Vulcan.
It'll be that, Mertru Medical up there.
Oh, the clinic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The pharmacy in Minden's gonna,
Oh, yeah.
they're ready to do it. All of our,
Hands still on that?
yeah.
Is
Okay.
Doc still got his office there, Amanda?
I don't know, I haven't heard anything from him.
It's been quiet.
Yeah.
What? We need, yeah, Becky, if you can kind of keep that so it don't. Okay.
He's on the other side of the river. Probably.
Okay, so, we're gonna do, Board of Health, Animal Control, Environmental Health, Planning, Matt White and Maria Seek.
So I laid out in front of you, to start with, which will be the planning department's budget.
Okay.
Along with that, I gave you our permitting reports. These permitting reports are available online on our website. You can make your own report. You can look at the data that's provided there to you. The citizen service software does a really good job of being able to formulate reports to really kind of whatever your needs are on that. I put a little pin mark next to the residential new single-family dwelling, and those are new homes that were constructed in Pottawattamie County. And for these reports, this runs from January to December on 2019 and 2020. So 2020, the county added 47 new homes, and in 2019, we added 34 new homes. Other important numbers on that report, down towards the bottom where you will see the permit valuation breakdowns. And for commercial valuation in 2020, we added $2 million. In 2019, the numbers are just a little skewed because of the windmill project that we had happen. So you could knock off 110 million really from that, and put about 52 million in commercial valuation that was added. Residential valuation.
So is the windmill project over with then?
Yes.
It is. Did they do them all?
Yes. They retooled them. So the news, when they did the retooling, it was new internal mechanisms and longer blades that they stuck on them.
What happened to the other windmill we were gonna have?
You know, it kind of fizzled out. I haven't heard much from that company. I do every now and again hear of a person out there still trying to secure land leases, but they did theirs differently. They wanted to land lease out that entire block of area, which was 295,000 acres, I believe. And so it was a lot of land leases that they were trying to lock people into that I just don't know if they're able to accomplish that task.
Okay.
So when you're, Matt, on the 110,000 roughly on the windmills?
110 million?
110 million?
110 million, I'm sorry, excuse me. 110 million. Where is that a new commercial accessory structure, or what permit bucket, building permit bucket does that go in?
Those fell into the commercial renovations.
Commercial renovation.
Yeah. It's at the top. When you get towards the top, you have commercial.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I see it. Okay. So 14. So then there was another, what was there, another 50 million in commercial that year too?
Correct.
Which would have been, what was that?
I can't tell you the exact projects. It probably had to do with projects, not only, you know, I think there was a project that went on at Sire. I think that there was other projects that had gone out. You know, the venue out there on Highway 92 would have been a portion of that. And then we had there's a building up on Old Lincoln Highway that they refabbed into, you know, it was the old school, then it turned into that electronics business that's there now.
Yeah.
So it was
it'd be everything that would have been outside the corporate limits of any city.
correct.
Okay.
Now this coming into this next year, I would imagine that we are going to add quite a bit in that commercial valuation piece of it, because there is the new industrial park will be opening, and we do have a number of individuals who are waiting to get permits for buildings. We have at least 5 people that are waiting on permits right now. Once that opens up enough to where they can get in there. And hopefully with the housing trends, I mean, what you see here with the increase in housing numbers really was to do with the ability to split up more ground on those seal coat roads. We made available through the exception rules and things for more ground to open up, more minor subdivisions to happen. And what we've seen with those minor subdivisions really is once they do happen, people are building homes on them. So it's not people just going in there and planning for the future. It's they're dividing it up, and then the houses are going up right after that, which has all been really good, I think, for the climate and the construction industry in Pottawattamie County. And then down below that, it shows kind of the revenues that come in. 2020, you know, we always have budget for around $225,000 in permit fees. For that 12-month period, we reached $237,000 in permit fees. The year before that, we were at $1,014,000. It's based on that, you know, large part to that wind energy project that came in. So other than that, there's really, I don't have any big changes within our planning department budget. Everything is, that department's been around for a while. Everything's fairly well set up. I think I do have budgeted in. You will see on the second page, nearly down to the bottom, I did budget in, we are going to need 1 new vehicle if a vehicle is reaching the end of its lifespan. And So that's what that cost is for it went up from $7,400 to $34,000.
What do you normally get, Matt? You try to get it like in a small SUV type thing?
We get, what we've moved to is Ford Escapes, the all-wheel drive Ford Escapes. And they seem to do really good on the gravel roads and making it through the snow and weather that we need them to.
You trade in the old one, would you?
We do trade in the old ones when that happens.
Okay, can I take you back to your revenues for a second?
Sure.
You've been budgeting about 236 this year, you're budgeting 241. If you look at your year-to-date activity, you're at about 176,000. Is there something in there that got that to be so high right now? I mean, do you expect that to double by the end of this fiscal year?
Permitting kind of comes in waves. You'll see when construction season's happening, there's a number of people coming in for permittings. Back to school time kicks off, you'll see your permits drop down. And then once everybody gets back to school, everybody's back in for their permits. Holidays come up, the permits stop again. And then once the holidays are over, beginning of the new year, people will start getting all excited around springtime. And you'll see a huge another influx of permits come in.
Okay, so that's probably that's typical.
Mm-hmm. We will have, we've been made aware of, for this coming spring, we're gonna have another big dirt permit that'll come in. And, I mean, if that one permit comes in, then that covers it up to what our budget is.
A big dirt permit, what are you talking about?
Around 60 to 80,000.
That could go into your Pottawattamie County Impact Fund?
No, that would go into our revenue line item here.
Okay, you have step and grade in your man.
For salaries? No, I did not put any salary action in there. That was what the instructions were with the budget.
I think you were instructed to put in step and grade, right?
Longevity and step and grade, yes.
That's not gonna change much.
It shouldn't. So the majority of the employees in the planning department are almost, if they're not already at their max, I mean, they're max.
So I got a quick question on, I guess talking about pay. Are vehicles that are being driven home, are we taxing those miles?
Yes, so that started a few years back when Mary Davis was still here, to where individuals who commute with their vehicle, then when payroll comes up, they have to email in their commute days, and then it's $3 per day that gets added in to their pay. They don't actually see it, but it gets added in for tax purposes.
Okay, we really need to relook that. It's $3 a day, I mean, it's not.
Is there actually that's like you're better?
Pardon?
Yeah, sure.
What's that?
Well, I'm with you. I'm as hard as hearing, so I can't.
Okay.
That fan blowing makes it hard for me to hear.
That makes a big difference.
This isn't your department, you're part of it, but it's not solely on you. I've been looking at a lot across the county at vehicles that have been driven home, and if it's not for a county purpose, so like let's say hypothetically you got an employee that drives car home, and then they drive back to the office. Well, those miles driving from here to home and back should be taxable. Basically, it's a fringe benefit. It should be taxed on their as pay. So per mile, there's like a per mileage calculation. So I don't know what we're doing to track that, but if it's only like a $3 a day thing, then we got to really be.
That's currently what it is. It's you email in your commute days, and then they add in that $3 per day charge. So I have 3 different individuals within my department that take vehicles home with them. And one of them lives quite a ways out in eastern Pottawattamie County. Other 2 live here with inside city limits of Council Bluffs. So the individuals that live with inside city limits of Council Bluffs is maybe not that big of a benefit because they are so close, and the $3 a day probably covers it or whatever. The ones that live out on the drive all the way out the eastern side of it. One of the issues that we struggled with in the past was that not having necessarily a secure place to park the vehicles here when we do leave them. And so we've left vehicles down at the VA parking lot before, and we still leave vehicles down at the VA parking lot. And this year I had to talk with Buildings and Grounds because we had a problem with rodents, and I had lost 2 vehicles, and it cost about $4,000 for rodents being up and chewing in the wiring of them as they were parked down there overnight. And then we had another vehicle that somebody came by with a BB gun and popped off a few of our windows with a BB gun. But so those are some of the kind of a little bit of the challenges that we come up against on the vehicles. But no, we've talked about that internally in the department for several years, that, you know, more than the initial intent of people taking their vehicles home was for an emergency on the weekend, maybe possibly having to get called back in or go out late at night for those things. And, you know, since we're not seeing as much of those, it was probably one of those things that wasn't going to be around forever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you think about it, you said you had someone that lives on the eastern side of the county, so I mean, whatever, I'm assuming Macedonia would be what you're talking about. But, so, you know, who's paying the gas? Is the county paying the gas for that vehicle?
Yeah.
So that person's commuting with the county vehicle into work and back home. I mean,
So Justin, do you think the remedy for that would be to have Matt explore the option of those people not driving county vehicles? Maybe we can park them in the
well, here's the problem though, some days he probably has situations where they have to go to, you know, Carson or Hancock or something to go do work, so it's cheaper for them to drive from Macedonia, where the individual lives, to that location. So I mean, I think that the implied task here is that, you know, department managers handle it, but I think we really need to take a look at it across the county. As I said, your sliver of this pie, your department. But overall, if you think about the amount of vehicles that are going from here to home that are not being charged, that we're not charging a tax on, it should be considered a fringe benefit, more or less, to be able to do that. Because we're paying the gas, you know, we're paying the mileage, gas, maintenance on those vehicles to go from here to wherever.
Matt, what kind of times do you have where you're working out in the county, where they go right from their home to the job in the morning?
There's points that can come up on both ways, where there might be an early inspection that they catch on their way in, and or there might be a time where a contractor needs just a little bit later of an inspection. And so they're able to catch that inspection, you know, at 3:30, 4 o'clock. And
But I agree, you know, the other side of that is, like I said, you gotta make sure that okay, so if we're saving $5,000, but then we just had 4,000 in damages because someone shot it up with a BB gun and rodents, you know, what's the cost benefit? So I think we just need to look at it countywide.
Well, I think you're right, but I don't know. The IRS has got to have some way. It's not $3. I mean, I can't imagine where that number came from.
That looks as though it's taxable income. So like per mile, so if you drove a vehicle home 20 miles every day, to work and back, home and back every day, that per mileage cost gets added on as though it's taxable income. And so then that comes out. And that's an IRS, I mean, that's a federal and state law that we do that. So
Right.
I don't believe we're doing it correctly, I guess is my point.
Right, and that's what I would have to agree, and I would think it would get adjusted every year.
You might find that some individuals will say, I'm not driving.
Pardon?
I think this started in about 2012, 2014, somewhere in there. I just don't know that it's been changed since then.
That Mary gave us the $3
Yeah.
number?
I think it came from an IRS commuting rule. But yeah, that should be looked at as well. I've got it pulled up right now.
Matt,
I'm not
are we
seeing-
running vehicles through the system quicker?
No, our vehicles, on average, they last us about 5 years. What
was it before 12?
Well, before 12, we were trying to trade them in just at 100,000 miles. And then, once we moved from the trucks, we had trucks that we drove. Once we moved from the trucks to these smaller SUVs, then we tried to stretch out the mileage a little bit further and go 120, 130,000 miles. We have these Chevy Equinoxes that we're still trying to work our way through. And realistically, at 120,000 miles, those things are done. The gravel roads just really put a beating on the suspension aspects of them, and we ran into transmission problems, wheel bearings, everything else.
What kind of time on them? How many years?
About 5 years.
You're right, Justin, if the vehicle goes to Macedonia every year, that's putting about 70 miles a day on it. And 5 days a week, 350 miles a week.
Yeah, and that's not, I mean, there's workarounds too. I mean, there's possibilities that we could store it at, one of the shops even. That's where that person goes to work. So that way they're not driving all the way to Council Bluffs. It makes, so if it makes more sense, I just think we need to start looking at that a little bit because okay, we got a couple examples with Mass Department, but then when we start going to some of these other ones, now it adds up. Now it's real money. You're actually probably replacing a vehicle every year if you think of it that way.
Yeah.
But
I think the one that we're going to be trading off would be it's either 2013 or 2014. I mean, we stretched this one out as far as it can go.
yeah, and I don't think any of us are in disagreement with you pursuing that. I just think we got to look at how we're taxing people. So if you look it up on the IRS, it's as though it's like someone having a company vehicle, and then you should be able to find that. There's a whole book on it, but I just know that
Well, yeah, we don't want to.
You might find that people no longer want to drive a company vehicle home when they realize that they're getting taxed the amount that they are. Because then someone who's making 50,000 but has a company vehicle is probably actually making closer to 80,000, and then they're saying, wait a minute, I'm not doing that, because now they're getting taxed in that higher bracket. So the workaround is, store the vehicles at Central Shop or something or whatever, and that's their commute to work. Go there, get your vehicle, and go to where you gotta go. Something like that. Well, we're not there right now. I think we need to understand it
Do a
better.
study session on it?
Yeah.
Well, we need, that should be something that first of every year that we address with everybody once we get this worked out. Because, we don't want the employee to get an unexpected bill, and we don't want the county to be, not be doing what it's supposed to be doing.
No, I'm with you. I don't think there should be a big surprise to the employees either.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Matt, 3 real quick questions for you. On the bottom of page 2, in 1920, you budgeted 483. You actually spent 410, so you turned 73 back. Would that be accurate?
What'd you say?
1920 total budget,
Yeah.
483. Actual was 410.
Correct.
Okay.
So that, the large portion of that was we switched half of my salary into the public health budget at that time. So that was a big decrease in there.
So the 2021 budget was 430. You're estimated to spend 440. You're gonna overspend your budget?
Yeah, we are gonna overspend the budget because we have COVID-19 time in there. A number of the planning department people are helping out in the COVID-19. So you have, when we do the mass vaccination clinics, we have building inspectors down there. We have our permit techs down there. We have our office technician down there, zoning and land use coordinators down there. So, it's gonna get overspent.
We get reimbursed 75%.
Correct. Correct.
We'll have to address that in the amendment.
What was that, Becky?
That's the stuff we're monitoring now, and we're going to get to when we discuss the amendment for this year.
Okay, can you mute your phone again, Becky, so we don't have that? Thank you.
And there's a large possibility, just so when you look up to my line items, as the contract building services is $40,000.
What page are you on?
On page 2. Yeah. So with the addition of Jeff Miller and Sean Stevens now, they picked up more of our plan reviews and things like that. So we were spending considerably less on that unless a large project comes in. I can't see us really spending more than $10,000 this year out of that line item, but
Okay.
You always have to leave it just because that large project may come that they haven't come into our office and talked to us about. So when, a lot of times when projects come in, that are really heavy, engineered pieces of it, we will send those down to Darren to go through. Something really complex, but on the other ones, if it is like, the Valley View Veterinary Clinic that came up, we did that one in-house and reviewed all that down through, so we were able to retain all of that into the county. Where normally, 75% of that would have gone to that contract, and that would have been a decrease there.
Okay, so if you look at this year's current fiscal budget, you were at 430, you're moving to 456. Almost all of that cost is that new vehicle. So if we were able to do a one-time expense on that vehicle somehow.
Correct.
Your budget doesn't change.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you very much, sir.
What was the, I want to just go on the second page, Matt, just up there above where you were talking about your contracted services. What was going on with the activity for credit card fees?
The credit card processing fees?
Yeah.
So the credit card processing fees that's the percentage of fees that we have to take some, and so that account is set up into a separate bank account. The credit card fees they go into this separate bank account, and then we get charged the fees on top of that take away from the amount that comes out of that. Well, we have to write the amount of fees, whatever gets deposited into that thing, we have to write a check out of that and deposit it over here with the county. Those fees outweighed what we were charging for fees at the time, so we had to up our fees to 5%, so then we had to do deposits into that account to get it leveled back out again. And so it's a balancing act of trying to make sure that whatever fee we're charging people to use their card always covers that cost.
So is that what we're using, 5% now?
We're using 5% now.
That should cover you easily, I would think. Do you get much for credit cards?
The majority of our people have switched over to paying by credit card and online.
Is that when you say credit card, does it mean debit or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're saying a large percentage of them are going to that, so it's 5%, and then you have to pay back.
Right. And I think you get, it's a little bit more because it would be nice to have somebody who could look at it at a county-wide thing and say, hey, listen, we're all going to use this same processor to do this and have a larger account rather than these single department accounts. Because I don't necessarily, it's one of the things that doesn't make me really comfortable is having this separate checking account sitting out there that I write checks out of to pay this credit card fee back. And I believe that we get charged a little bit more on top of that. And then I pay for a contract to make sure that we stay in this PCI compliance with them. Because if you fall out of that PCI compliance, then they double charge you on certain things. And we went through a period where we were arguing with our credit card vendors and everybody, and then they had to go back and refund a bunch of those credits that they had taken from us and double billed us for. So it would be one of those things that could be really handy to look at countywide to say, hey, this is who we're going to use as a credit card processor. This is where it's,
Yeah, we just
one.
Yes.
Yeah, we should, with the auditor, talk with the state auditor and find out how that can look. And then, so are you with?
We're with Avalon.
Avalon, you said?
Avalon.
Is that through American National or who?
It goes into American National bank account that we have.
Okay, but Avalon is somebody you negotiated with yourself?
No, it was set up before I took over, but it was so we went off of the ones we talked at the time. Kay talked to conservation and said, who are you working with in conservation? And they referred us to this Avalon. And so that's who we utilize.
There's got to be most of our, I don't say most, but I'm guessing probably nowadays, we have to ask Lee, but probably half of our transactions are maybe credit or debit cards.
But it's even higher than that, Scott.
Well, but we should be looking at that,
You know, unless it's a whole house permit, a lot of the contractors have switched over to that. You get up to those permits that are a couple $1,000s, then they don't wanna utilize that transaction method for it, because they're gonna get 5% on top of it. They'll write a check at that time, but our smaller plumbing and electrical permits, which is a number of them that are constantly rolling through, all utilize this system because they don't have to come in anymore. They just do it online and get a permit issued to them.
Thanks for clarification. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Matt on the planning and development?
Looks good, Matt. Gotta put that on one of the next agendas.
The credit card? Well, yeah, I think, we need to get somebody probably from the state auditor to tell us what we can.
She deals with a lot of that as well.
Who's that?
Yeah.
What we can and can't do.
Animal control? Probably 3 departments, probably.
Yeah.
Treasury and conservation.
Well, the sheriff's would be huge.
Credit card would be.
Yeah, and the attorney's office, both.
How are they doing down here in the
Treasurers.
treasurers?
That's what we said.
Oh, okay.
Treasurer, recorder, but they do a lot of transactions out of the jail or sheriff's office and attorney's office too. Okay, animal control.
So we have animal control here. Again, this is another one of the budgets. It hasn't changed much. You are aware that we added in Avoca to the animal control piece of this now. And so that increased our revenues a little bit. I am holding off this year unless the board would like something otherwise. We have been increasing the town fees about a quarter per capita in the last 2 years to try to get them back up to par to where they really need to be at. We did have a pretty significant decrease in activity, and I think everybody's kind of hit hard with the COVID piece, so I thought it wasn't really hurting anything. We could hold off for a year before we added any more to that. Employee things are relatively stable on that side. And then, the major expense that comes out of animal control is our shelter services contract with the Midlands Humane Society. But nothing really staggering.
Is that on page 2?
Yes.
Contract services shelter?
Yeah, 81,000.
Oh, here, it's up here. Other. You got contract services shelter down low there, about 455. It's all zeros.
What is that, Matt?
So it's an old line item that was in relation to the previous animal shelter when we had an animal shelter and the contracts that were associated with what they had at that time.
So is there a similar report that you gave us on building permits that shows number of citations or number of dogs?
I have those numbers for you if you'd like. So in 2019, we picked up 88 animals. In 2020, we picked up 68 animals. Out of those animals picked up, in 2019, 67 of those were claimed. And the total animals claimed in 2020, out of the 68 was 56 of those animals were claimed.
When they get claimed, that's down at the Midlands Humane Society where they come and claim them?
Correct, all of our animals get taken down through there.
They get claimed down there?
I shouldn't say all the animals, but the majority of the animals get taken down through there.
Right.
If we pick up a horse or a pig or something like that, then we utilize Shady Lane Ranch. And Charlie's been good enough to allow us a little stable spot out there at no cost to us, and he'll hold the animal there.
So let's just say you said there's 68 in 2020 and 50, I think 56 or whatever the number was, you said. So those 56 that get claimed, the Midlands Humane Society charges X for them getting it back,
The impound fees, yes, we get the impound fees refunded back to us.
oh, we do?
Yes.
Okay. Where, those on, page one? Okay, there you go.
Where's that?
Yeah, so it looks, the 2021,
Yeah, second line.
yeah, it looks like we
Okay.
received $1,830 in impound fees. 2019, we got 3152.
Yeah. So, is there just one full-time animal control and then two?
We have one full-time animal control officer, and then we try to keep 3 on-call officers, so that way they can rotate in 2-week increments on there.
Okay. So, do they have the power to write some citations then also?
Yes, if need be. There's really, when you get into the piece of issuing a citation, it sounds a lot harsher than what it actually is, right? The goal in our departments, and any of mine that I work with, the planning department, animal control, environmental health, all of them that have the ability to issue a citation, is to do whatever it takes to not issue that citation. Because if we issue that citation, there's a number of things that can happen once it gets up into the courtroom that become then out of our control. So even when we initially issue a citation, what we will do is we will conduct a meeting with them in the hallway up there outside of the court and then delay the process for moving them along. So because the whole point of our citations is compliance. So we'll get them in the hallway up there, and then maybe that's a, hey, realization, this is real. I'm gonna get in trouble sooner or later. And so then they come up with timelines. We'll give them a schedule of compliance. And we need you to make it this far by this date on whatever action we need taken from you. And then they'll delay the court hearing, 30 days. And then by the time we get into this, then if we get compliance ahead of time, the county attorney's office will tell the county attorney's office, hey, we got them into compliance. They'll waive that $750 citation and just knock it down to court costs, which is the $83. So it becomes a lot more work personnel-wise and cost-wise when we take that citation level. And so it's really the incremental steps that we do ahead of time to stay out of that process.
Okay.
Do we have a lot of repeat offenders?
Oh, there's a lot of repeat offenders.
Just keep going and keep going.
Well, everything is based in code, so there's always that little bit of gray area in it and they know, hey, if it's the same as the junkyard, they'll clean it to a certain spot and they'll be like, well, it's good. And then you turn around about a week or 2 weeks later, then they've added everything back into it. It's kind of the same thing with the animals. You go out there and you tell them, hey, your animal doesn't have food or water, you could just issue them a citation for that. Well, they'll come dump food and water in there. And then we have to do weekly checks and daily checks sometimes on some of the animals just to make sure, do they have the right amount of shelter? So weather like this out there, they have to make sure they get out there, make sure the water's not frozen, and that they have those things taken care of. It's really hard it's labor intensive on a lot of these things, but some people will just never fully comply with.
But most of it is driven by someone calling and observing something.
Correct.
Yeah.
And do we issue citations when we go back continuously?
We do issue citations when we get to certain points in it, and we're just not getting compliance anymore on corrective action.
Because I wonder if you dismiss them, they go through the process and they do it again and they get that fine. They'll be thinking strong and hard about the next move.
And we have, over the years, we've cited numerous people and taken them to that part. And we've had a few people that you give them a citation and they pay before you even get into court. They'll pay the whole thing and they're like, and then they think, well, I paid the fine so I can keep going with what I'm doing. It's like, no, you can't keep going with what you're doing. Now you got a bigger fine coming at you.
Okay.
Matt, looks good. One quick question and then a comment. Our contract with the Humane Society has an escalator. What is that?
I believe it is 3% of the CPI, Consumer Price Index, or whichever part is greater. And
Oh,
so it did increase from, we originally contracted with them, it was 72,000. And so it has increased slightly on there.
I thought it was, not to exceed 3% CPI and not to exceed 3%, but that's not it.
It could be, I could very well not be quoting it right. Like I said, it's a whole paragraph that fits in there. I can email it to you if you'd like.
Not to exceed 3% in a year, I think.
So with that in mind.
Is it an annual contract?
No, it's perpetual. I think it automatically renews. So our cost to house dogs there is going up 3%.
It has already. It has an increase for this year. So
But it will for this budget year.
No, I think we're locked in at this rate that we have right now for this budget year.
Does it escalate annually?
Well, it does if we agree to it, and I think we've already come to that part, because it increased, it bases on per capita too, right? So we added Avoca, we added Oakland in, and so we had to pay the per capita rate to them for adding it in. Realistically, what our expenses, what we're getting from those towns, and that's why we had to increase the towns a little bit, is because the amount of per capita we're charging them goes directly to the shelter. And then we're providing a service that's based on the rural taxpayers covering that for the towns. And so that's why we went from the $3 and we started increasing it. Now, Oakland and Avoca both came in at higher contracted rates because we need to level the playing field on and make sure that we're providing a service to the towns, but the service being provided is based on a user fee and not just the rural levy covering that service for everyone.
Okay.
I got a question. Your vehicles, you have nothing in there for this year.
So that's motor vehicle equipment.
Right.
Right, and that was a line item that they had, and that was for equipment that goes into the motor vehicles. And we don't really need any more equipment that goes into those motor vehicles.
Okay. And then down below that, you have motor vehicle, you have nothing. At the bottom.
Yeah, I saw that one. That's for your purchase of a new motor vehicle.
We're good on that?
Yes, so if you go up more towards the top, this budget has a line item in it for fuel motor vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the line item that takes care of our van. So this was a budget I inherited, and so there's line items in there that differ from all the rest. This one is the fuel and motor vehicles. It has one for lubricants in it. It had the motor vehicle equipment in it. I mean, there's just a number of line items in there that. So the fuel and tires, everything, if we need new tires or fuel, it all comes out of that line item for motor vehicles.
Matt, if I can, I want to go back to that conversation we just had. I want something to consider. Maybe you and I don't seem to be on the same page. But if we have a contract with Midlands Humane Society that increases annually 3%, let's just use that number. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, but I don't think that's right. I don't think it increases annually.
Okay, so it's not going up.
We're locked in. We're not going anywhere.
And I thought for sure there was an escalator in there.
There is an escalator in there, but it's not something that goes up annually.
Okay. I just want to make sure if our costs are going up there, they need to go up here.
No, I agree.
Okay.
is all funded from rural services?
Rural services and then the per capita fees that we charge each one of the communities, yes.
Okay.
Licensing, we get quite a bit annually for licensing of animals.
Matt, does Lee still do that downstairs?
No, that is actually moved over to our online permitting system as well. So we handle all the dog licensing through our office.
So they have to do it online?
They don't have to do it online, but we handle it through our office. They have the
So they
ability
can come
to.
into your office?
The public health clinic, yes.
We have somebody at the counter ask the other day, so we're just making sure we're set.
So if they come in, we send them over to you?
To the public health office,
Public
not the
health,
planning
okay.
department.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions from them? Vote?
No.
Okay, animals under control.
Good job, Matt.
Oh, you're not done yet, Brian.
Getting started.
So this one here is environmental health, and the recycling center is included in there as well.
Thanks, man.
Do you ever see Clint anymore?
See who?
Clint.
No.
Victor.
I haven't. Not for some time anyway. So I do have some reporting numbers that I wanted to let the Board of Supervisors know on the recycling center. So for the year of 2020, we took in 116 tons of MSW, that's your household garbage. We took in 544 tons of construction debris, 14 tons of tires, 6 tons of electronics, 81 appliances with Freon, 196 appliances without Freon. We took in 24 tons of paper. We took in 16.95 tons of plastics, 40 tons of cardboard, 70 tons of metal. So all that equates to 834 tons, almost 835 tons exactly, of materials that have run through the recycling center for the year 2020.
Is that's calendar year or fiscal year?
That's calendar year.
Calendar year, okay.
So the city of Oakland, we partner with them on a tag program. So instead of that, they used to do a cleanup day where they'd set a couple dumpsters out there and have everybody come down and fill the dumpsters, and it was just a mess for them to handle because people pile things all around their dumpsters. We've taken in 84 tons of material from the city of Oakland through that tag program. Now, Tom has gotten pretty creative out there on ways to generate revenues. And the paper that comes into there, they actually take that paper and then they bundle it and then they sell it back out for bedding to the farmers around the area in there. They've also then broken out the way that they cash in their batteries. They take in their they separate out the tin cans and bottles and take those in.
So all your metal that you just talked about, are we taking that all over to Alters or something to get money back on that, or is that?
We haul that all over to Lakeside.
Okay, well, there's a revenue line on that, right?
Correct. I think the revenue from the metal that we brought in so far has been, so for the year 2020, it was $7,696 that we made in revenue from the metal. Cardboard, we made $2,400. Plastics, we made $1,700. Paper was $1,161. Appliances without Freon was $2,352. Appliances with Freon, $1,215. Electronics, we made $3,383. Tires was $4,727. Construction debris, we brought in $23,000, 154.
Matt, is this not on this agenda, or this?
This is just my report that I'm reading off for you.
So that's not even in here then? Environmental health review, no.
So on that, it's gonna go into one, this is the breakout of the revenues that's gonna go in. So when you look at the revenues,
Solid waste?
so that all goes into the solid waste disposal line.
Okay, thank you.
So when you look at the budgets, if you, on page 1, that top line item underneath there, that's the regional collection center. That covers your household hazardous waste program that runs in the county. And that is a per capita over the entire county. A portion of that goes to the city of Council Bluffs. City of Council Bluffs manages that program. We have a building out there at the recycling center that is set up just for people to come turn in whatever household hazardous waste they may have, paints, leftover things. That bring in batteries, and we'll stock the batteries up in there. The second line down from that, well testing and abatement, that is a grant program that comes down through the state of Iowa that allows us to do not only our water testing, but also well closures. We do a cost share program. And so people will come in with certificates signed off on by certified well drillers, and then they can get a check from us for $500. Septic permits, we've already done really well this year so far in septic permits. If you look at 2021, we brought in $22,000 so far in septic permits. Water well permits is another revenue line item for us. And then our radon test kits, we started offering radon test kits once the City of Council Bluffs closed down their health department, and we do have a number of people that will come in and pick up those radon test kits from us.
This, think spring's gonna be a big spring for the percolation.
I do think it will be. We did get some new equipment for that, end of 19, beginning into 20, to try and help speed up that process. And it seems to be working out well so far. It allows us to not have to have a person sit there for 6 hours. We can kind of essentially skip the pre-soak portion of it and move right into the perk test. And then hopefully the person can end it in about 3 hours instead of the 6.
Hey, Matt, what about your, it's a little over halfway down the page, other miscellaneous fees, pool, tan,
On revenues?
on your revenue, yeah.
So pools, tanning, and tattoo.
You have it re-estimated at 1,000, but you've already brought in 8,100. Is that a typo that we need to fix?
Yeah, that should be 10,000.
Okay, I'll get it fixed. Thank you.
Pool tanning and tattoos, that is a contract that we hold with the state for inspections of all the swimming pools. Tanning salons used to be included in there, and tattoo parlors. So the convention that they do in the City of Council Bluffs every year, the tattoo convention down at the MAC, that's usually a pretty big revenue generator for that.
And your reimbursement for private sources.
What is that?
So I apply to the Schilberg Foundation once a year.
Okay, so that's a grant.
Yes.
Okay.
They usually help us out with our recycling center out there.
You never got 10,000, right?
No, they usually give me 10,000.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Pretty generous.
Mm-hmm.
And the activity is, you re-estimated for 2020 for 1,000 there.
Yeah, because I assumed this year when I applied for it, it wasn't gonna go to the recycling center.
Okay,
I was gonna apply for it to help out with the COVID things.
okay.
Okay, Matt, if you look at the bottom on page 3, and you have your budget for this year at 492, goes to 514. And your revenue on page 1 is dropping 15,000. Is that where the difference is? Because I don't see it anywhere else. Unless I missed it.
So I did drop the revenue down on our soil fees and erosion plans to try to make sure that I was hitting on target for that. We also lost, I won't say that I shouldn't say we lost. The Iowa DNR took back the air quality monitoring. And so that was $13,000 in revenue. We received the $2,800 in revenue from it, but we're not gonna receive any more. So that was a $13,000.
Where's that at, Matt?
That's on page 1. It's about in the middle of the revenue, air quality monitoring.
Oh, I got you.
2832.
That's it. Okay.
So
there was,
was that still the station down on 9th Avenue?
there's 2 stations. There was one on top of the school, and then there's one down on 9th Avenue.
The school.
That's the elementary school that's down on the west end of town.
Edison?
Edison.
Edison.
Yeah, it was up, so they had to climb up through a cubbyhole to get up on the roof.
So they do, who's doing it? DNR's doing it?
I think the DNR's coming down and doing it.
Really?
Yeah. I tried to get them to adjust the price of the contract up because it was really costing us more time than what we were receiving off of the contract. And our employees would get down there. They can see from the state hygienic lab exactly what's going on with those machines. And so they wouldn't notify our employees ahead of time. Our employees would go down there, and well, the machine hadn't been working, and or they wanted the employees to sit down there on the phone with them for 2 hours and punch buttons while they messed on the computer system up there. And it was kind of a continual process of that. So when I asked them to increase the contract on it, the DNR said that they would just kind of take it back. So I'm like, well, that's fine.
Because we inherited that from the city, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And we were out of the containment piece of it anyway. This was it's on the final years of the EPA monitoring. I think they had 10 years left on that they had to finish out for monitoring, but the containment period portion of it had ended.
Okay.
So the expense for that, then what do you do with that? Those people that used to test it all the time, now what are they gonna do?
Now they have more time to get the perk tests and things like that done. We had really taken a hit on being able to do our perk tests because our employees are dedicating so much time to that. So it will bring in more revenue on the perk test side of it. But they have enough tattoo inspections and septic inspections, well inspections, water testing. It was really, with that air quality, it was reaching a point to where we were either gonna have to bring somebody else on or else we were gonna wind up losing something because we weren't being as timely as what we needed to be on our other actions, so.
So how much time do you think those people spend in the corporate limits of the city?
They probably half their time.
When you say the city, you're talking council bluffs?
I said corporate limits of a city.
Of a city, okay.
Of a city.
Probably
Half their time?
Probably half their time because the swimming pool.
We could put half their time in the general basic fund, couldn't we?
Well, you could.
Well, I mean, why should a farmer be paying for tattoo inspection in Council Bluffs?
No, I agree with that. I would just have to find out from the state on what that would be like moving Because really, do those individuals work for the Board of Health? Yeah, they do work for the Board of Health. It's just a matter of what that state contract that we have does with that. Because that state contract is with the Board of Health and them, so.
Would you look into that?
I
And
can.
get back to me, please, thank you very much.
We do, or do we do already on them? Do we do the benefit side from the general side? Or is it all coming out of rural?
All of it comes out of
All
rural.
of it comes out of rural.
So I guess I'd ask that question too, if the benefit side could come out of general side.
It would if they move over, if it's moved over underneath the Board of Health.
Well, even if it wasn't moved over, could they do that or not?
Probably not because of that contract.
Okay. Okay, anything else on the environmental health?
I'm good.
Okay.
So our recycling center project out there, our building is done, the new baler's done. I expect to see those revenues continue to increase as long as our, it's all new revenue to us. Tom does a really good job about monitoring what the cardboard market is doing and transports along with our other materials. They're always, like I said, they're always looking for new ways to bundle and package that stuff up.
All right, Matt, now lower the boom on us with the Board of Health budget.
It's nothing but good news today.
Oh, awesome. Something for last, it was first on our list.
So the funding that's gone into this thing has always been, everybody wanted to know what funding is coming from where. So I did a little breakdown to show everybody what grants have come into us, what funding the board has put out, just to make it a little bit easier to understand on at least where our revenues pieces are at. All right. Yes. So if I could, I would like to start out with the sheet that I handed you all as far as where the revenue is coming from, the COVID-19. At the beginning, the Board of Supervisors authorized $150,000 and then came back around and authorized another $250,000. We then did a board budget amendment of $1 million, so it puts us at $1.4 million. State grant funding that we have received has been an IEDA grant for interpreters, that's $56,000. We have the Immunization Grant, which we were allowed to utilize for COVID funds, that's $30,270. We have a response grant, and that is $34,783. There's also a Preparedness Grant. That Preparedness Grant is from that larger coalition of the 13 counties or 11 counties, whichever it is, it's managed out of Mills County. We're receiving $7,000 from that. We continue to advocate for more based on the size of our population and that. And then we have our local public health grant, $203,121. That is a yearly grant. That's another one that we continue to advocate for our state representatives when they do their funding up there to please allocate more funding down through that local public health grant that has decreased over the years. And you can see that one on the front page of the budget. It's about middle way down, local public health grants, starts at the 221. The 320 was in the middle of a budget cycle and then down to 210, so.
That's primarily used for nurses, is that right, Matt?
Correct, that is primarily used for the nursing to provide services to the residents.
All right, thank you.
So then we move down to our private foundation funding that we've received. We received a grant from Omaha Women's Fund, that's in conjunction with Iowa West. That's for $100,000. That has helped us with our staff out at Iowa Western and our clinic site out there. They did a lot of COVID relief items for us. Iowa West Foundation, I applied for the COVID relief fund and we received $11,359. That offsets our cost on the Test Iowa site modifications that we did. Southwest Iowa Foundation provided us $30,000 hotel rooms for long-term care staffing. And then the Southwest Iowa Foundation also provided us $15,000 for shower trailers. That was at the homeless shelter and at the hospitals at one point in time. Federal CARES funding, now this is what we've actually been awarded and we have received now, is $88,000 was a direct allocation to public health. And then we submitted for the $1,181,666.33. And that brings us to $270,291.31 of federal CARES funding that we've received so far. And we've been
received this?
That's received, that's in the county coffers for that. We've been told that they're gonna receive another $111,000, but we have not seen that as of yet.
How much was that?
111,000.
But that just came out like last Friday or something.
Yeah. We've also done some pass-through funding. We've tried to look at the COVID-19 event a little bit different. So we had the Council Bluffs Chambers run a media campaign. That was $10,000 of pass-through funding through us. Pottawattamie County Schools also did a media campaign. That was $3,500 that went through public health. Methodist Health Systems got some equipment, $75,000. CHI Health System also got some equipment, that was $74,000. And Advanced Southwest Iowa, and everybody partnered for the Back to Biz, and that was $10,000 pass-through funding.
The equipment for the hospitals, when you say pass-through funding, it just got.
Was a grant, I think it was a grant you partnered with Iowa West on.
Yeah,
right?
it really-
You got the money and you said it.
Okay, that's why I was wondering, it just was a strict pass-through.
Yeah, it comes to us and then we send it to the hospitals.
And those were for they had invoices or whatever
Yes.
that triggered those and stuff. So of all these ones, are any of them reoccurring? The public health grant, is that the only reoccurring
Some
one?
of the state grants, the bottom four are reoccurring. The IEDA grant is not, that was a competitive grant that we wrote for. Immunization Grant is recurring, Response Grant is recurring. And the Omaha Women's Fund grant, right now, we've been successful at keeping that going.
Those, okay.
So that let's just say, if that Omaha Women's Fund, if that were to go away, would we close down the facility we have at Iowa Western?
We would not have it staffed as we do now. We still have an STD grant that comes through the state of Iowa that allows us to do outreach in those places like that, but we wouldn't be able to be there every day.
Okay. This is a ballpark I'm asking for, Matt. You know, the board provided $1.4 million of money for the COVID-19 pandemic. We were reimbursed about, I'm gonna call it 1.3 from the state, or from the feds on the CARES Act. Are there any other expenses that aren't on this?
So our
aren't
main,
being shown on here that we have paid for? I mean, I don't think that, if you take that 1.4 that the county put in and the 1.3 that we were reimbursed for, I don't think it's fair to say that this COVID pandemic only cost us $100,000.
oh, definitely not. Because when you look at all of the shift in personnel funds that we have put into this effort for the number of other pieces of public health that they would have been working on, I mean, it's cost us the majority, it has cost us the majority of our budget for public health. Everything that was budgeted out in public health really shifted over and just went straight into COVID instead of all of the other pieces that we had normally been working on.
So if you take a look at all the costs that, to date, we put in the county taxpayers have put in $1.4 million. We've been reimbursed about 1.3. What additional costs are out there that aren't being shown right now? $500,000? 700,000?
It'll probably be, we would probably have about $1 million in FEMA that we will submit that we'll submit to FEMA in total by the time this is done.
By the time this is done, what will it have cost Pottawattamie County taxpayers?
Well, if we get our FEMA reimbursement, it'll be around $250,000, so we submit for somewhere around $1 million. I mean, that will be the big roll-up at the end. I mean, these are all estimations that I could give you now. But I would assume by the time the vaccine effort is over and we have all of the staff, realistically, the biggest expense on that is our staff time, right? So we roll all that staff time into it, supply cost into it, we're probably gonna be at $1 million.
Is any of that reimbursed?
Nope.
Well, the $1 million will be reimbursable, but there's always gonna be, since it's going to FEMA, there's always gonna be a portion of it that's not. So unless the state comes through with and does something, then we'll have, our percentage of that we'll be on the hook for.
Do you think it's a percentage of $1 million, or?
It'll be, 10 to 15% of whatever.
Right, maybe 15, but of what number? 15 of what number do you think?
Well, if you're asking me to guess right now, I'd tell you $1 million.
Okay, just $1 million?
Yeah.
Okay. There's 111 onto this, 1,270,000, whatever, puts us at 138, so we're pretty close to the 14. If we get that 111 that they say they're gonna give us.
Yeah, but we still have a good 6 months to go.
Right.
Of, at least, of vaccine effort.
Oh, yeah.
And then we still have our disease investigators going.
Yeah, we don't, who knows how much longer that's gonna be. So where is, what is it? Oh, what's it, O'Brien, Whit O'Brien?
What, O'Brien?
Where is, are they in here, this other sheet?
They are not in here. They have not billed us anything as of right now.
We don't have even a guesstimate on where we're at with them?
On cost-wise?
Yeah.
Well, realistically, they're gonna have to do more for us than what they're doing for me to pay them anything.
But
So,
they don't bill us or anything?
we haven't received anything from them, and it's supposed to, their fees are supposed to come off of whatever they're able to get back to us from FEMA. They add in their 5%, and that's what they should get back from that, but.
Okay.
As of right now, I won't say I've been wholly impressed with the pieces that, we've been receiving from them. Communication's been staggered. They subcontracted us out to another individual company. There was a billing issue between those two companies. We didn't hear from them for about a month, and until we finally got them back online, they got their billing issue corrected out. So, we have submitted to FEMA. Our first round of submittals to FEMA was for $164,070.12 for labor, $101,000, $475.24 for materials, and then $36,385.16 in contract fees. But that took us up to the end of July. We have our next round is ready to go in, and that's gonna take us up to the end of October. And then the other portion of it's being wrapped up now that will take us to when we get to the end of January.
Okay. So do we wanna go to the budget sheet now?
We can.
Is there any other questions about the budget?
No, I mean, I'd just say that, yes, we've got a lot of expenses into this, but it's great that we're able to reimburse what we are able to reimburse, and I think that we're doing a fantastic job of doing that. So, I mean, I'd just say kudos to all those folks that are involved, because it could be like other counties and other places that are getting nothing. So, I mean,
No, we have a lot of
we've
community
done
partners.
pretty dang good about getting on top of this stuff and staying ahead of it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a cost, but our cost is probably far less compared to some of the folks. So good job to that.
I agree 100% on that, Justin. I just think when it's all said and done, it's probably going to cost our cash reserves about $500,000. And we're damn, well, I shouldn't say we're lucky. We're in good shape financially, so we can, I hate to say that we can afford it, but the funds are there to take care of
Softens the blow, yeah.
it. And that's because of leadership on this board.
Okay, we're gonna go to the budget worksheet.
Yes.
Just want to give us the highlights, Matt, and it's.
So, you know, when you look down through our revenues, the specimen collection, we do DNA samplings and other specimen collections like that we make a certain amount of money off of that. We do have sometimes where there's some good years and sometimes where there's not, so I don't, you know, push that revenue line item way up to try and hide anything that might come down through there. You will see that I do think that the state is going to hopefully keep our local public health funding at least at the same. They had been decreasing it each year, so I wrote it in there for the $210,000. $154,000, that is our STD grant that comes in.
Is the state public health grant, real quick, Matt, is that a per capita number typically or not?
Yeah, it's like a per capita basis.
Okay. I would agree. I can't see after what we're going through and have gone through or whatever. I would almost guess that's maybe gonna get some additional dollars, but time will tell.
And then our $100,000, that is the Omaha Women's Fund Iowa West Partnership for the STDs as well. Salaries are a good portion of what we have here. I think our business expense. One thing I think that we do have to start discussing here relatively soon will be, if you as a board have been doing a good job about planning ahead, and that's going to be with our facility. Our facility, I think we're on a 3-year lease. That lease is going to be coming to an end here pretty soon. We did have an option to purchase the property on that, and at the same time, but that's something that needs to be just kind of out there that we are, what as a county are we going to want to do? The location is great. It's right down in the area that we need to be at, but it's just going to be a matter of, does the county want to continue to rent a facility? Do they want to purchase a facility? Or you want to look for something different? I'm going to be like every other department head. I'll wave my hands in the air now and tell you, we could always use more room. But
let's bring it back to our capital expense conversation, because I think, not today, but
Right.
with what we've got going on right now between our urban renewal projects and everything else, there may be some opportunity that we could take advantage of.
the dues and memberships on there, you'll see that is, it's at $10,500. That allows us membership with the well-being partners. I try to stay, just under the level that Douglas County is at as part of that. They've been great partners. They offer help into a lot of different areas. They do right now they're running big media campaigns for mental health wellness. They coordinate with a lot of our partners. They help us facilitate meetings and set up locations for meetings. So we get quite a bit of work out of those individuals for the amount it takes for us to be a partner with them.
What was the name of the outfit?
Well-being partners.
So how many people are memberships of that,
Oh, there's pages.
Is it city or is it just counties?
No, the health departments are, and then all of there's large area employers that are a part of it too. Creighton University, UNO.
Okay.
It kind of helps us with our status as a health department to be at the table with those individuals.
Yeah.
Matt, on that second page, about halfway down, accreditation,
Yes.
you're budgeting 30,000 this year. Budgeted 20 in 18-19, only spent 4. And you budgeted 20 again, you spent 23. This fiscal year, you budgeted 30, you spent 3,000. What's up with that?
Well, it's hard to spend money on the accreditation part of it when the other activities are taking over what we're doing. So there are line items that on the accreditation piece of it is very in-depth, and there's a number of things that you have to do that cost you a lot of money to do them. And even to bring the accreditation, you have to pay for an accreditation person to come here. You have to buy their plane tickets, you have to pay for the hotel, you have to set them up so they can go through all of your things, to then rank you and rate you and give you the lines for it and how to be accredited. And it's one of those pieces that we did not make it through. But then there's other things that help us out with that, which is our media campaigns and other parts that go along with being accredited.
Does this have anything to do with the state?
It has a little bit to do with the state. I want to become an accredited health department because of the hard time they gave us at starting a health department. And so having this accreditation under our belt only helps to bolster where we've come in that short amount of time from 2016. And it's going to be pretty hard to argue with an accredited health department.
And if I look at your expenses from 2019 to 2020, on the bottom of page 2, you're at 186,000. This year's budget, you're budgeting 285. I'm sorry, that is wrong.
Yeah.
That is your total. So, Matt, is your budget going up over $200,000?
Are you talking 586 to 792?
I'm looking at,
I think those numbers are thrown off.
I can't follow this for some reason. I'm just not seeing that.
VNA, the homemaker services.
What'd you say?
Maria's thinking that a portion of it would be the VNA homemaker services, which was $83,000 that dropped off. But if you look back at 1920, the total budget 1920, that was 596,000, and then you go to our requests for 21-22, that's 518,000.
But the year-to-date activity and all that stuff, that's just because of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, I would throw 2021 as the budget and the year-to-date activity clear out of that.
Yeah, so I mean, you're almost coming down next year from what we think where you should have been. 80 grand. And you're saying the bulk of that is DNA coming out?
Well, a portion of it, we don't have a VNA contract going on anymore for the homemaker services. But that is if you were to compare, if you're looking at the 1920 total budget and you compare it with the requests for 2021, that would be the difference of what the homemaker services contract, close to that.
Okay.
budget, did you return money last year?
So this is a budget that money does get returned out of. There are grant activities in here that I also budget for, because if we were to lose one of those grants, I don't want to necessarily be one of those health departments that is 100% grant functioning. And so if we have it in there, utilize, I don't go out at the end of May and like a free-for-all spending. I try to do my best throughout the year to get new grants, increase grants that we have, and then that way I'm able to return as much money back to the county as we can and cover those expenses through grants. But at the same time, some of those grants, you don't necessarily know what's going to come through that year. If you have an emergency preparedness grant, they might tell you you're going to get $7,000. Well, you might end up with $34,000. And so all those things are extra revenue pieces that come into that. And I just don't want to have to depend on, well, do we figure it on the high side or do you figure it on the low side and possibly lose somebody at the end of the year? Because we're running pretty minimally staffed. We always have, as it is. And so to lose somebody over that would be tough on the number of other things that they're already doing.
Based on today's situation, COVID starts to go away, hopefully. So with some of that other expense.
Oh yeah, I mean there's a lot of expense that has gone into COVID. I mean whether we were at one point in time we were running 13 to 15 disease investigators. All of our nurses, that whether they were STD or public health, they were all switched over to where they were doing COVID relief efforts. So none of those other programs were really going on. I mean, there was even a shortage at one point in time where they were sharing STD kits around because the supplies weren't there. Everything got shifted over to making supplies for COVID. And that was metro area wide. I mean, those are the individuals that keep us in contact with what goes on at One World Community Health Center and their program, Douglas County's program, Sarpy-Cass County program.
Matt, on your fourth one up from the bottom on your revenues on page 1. Public health emergency, is that a preparedness grant?
Yeah, that would be the emergency preparedness grant.
And you're not expecting that this year?
So that is the one that it's a 12 to 13 county coalition. Within that, there is a 3 county, Harrison, Mills, and Pottawattamie County, that are involved in the city readiness initiatives. That's a little bit separate pot of funding, but it comes through that same piece. Our argument has been that we are the population center and that as they dole out money, it should be done on a per capita basis, because Pottawattamie County, whether it's our EMS services or public health services, I mean, both are involved in this. We make up the vast majority of the reasoning on why they're getting over $300,000 into this grant. So to try to turn around and tell me that you're only going to send me $7,000 out of a $300,000 grant is not excusable to me. Pottawattamie County, if we're going to be used as a population center for a grant, then we're going to get what's coming to us out of those grants. And Mills County's fighting that a little bit because they utilize that grant to fund 2 full-time employees in their health department. And it's been that way for quite some time. So they came back around, they said, well, we're going to buy everybody $1,000 worth of PPE. And what they dropped, they came around and dropped it off to us, and it looked like something I could have gone to the dollar store and bought for 20 bucks. And wherever they spent their $1,000 at, I guess we just do a lot better job of spending $1,000 in Pottawattamie County, because I had, $30,000 of stuff sitting in a room right there, and to bring me 2 little boxes and say that's your PPE. So they just have some things that they have to do. They have to account for a little bit better if they want to remain fiscal agent, or they're going to have to turn over the fiscal agent piece of it and allow Pottawattamie County to run it. Because I just don't see how Mills County is going to say $263,000 of that's justifiable to spend within their county as the emergency preparedness gurus when, they don't even make up a quarter of the population of it, so.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for everything you guys do. Tell your people and staff also.
Yeah, thank you guys for all the help that you've been giving down there.
We don't know where we're at on the next stuff yet, do we?
For
dates and stuff.
Yeah, we're working on the 13th right now. We had meetings with the pharmacies and clinics. We're gonna drop them off some vaccine tomorrow. So that way they can get their processes and everything down, ready to go. But, yeah.
Would that be the major
Valentine's Day.
clinic you've done so far, the largest clinic you've done so far, then on the 13th?
Yes, and we're gonna expand upon that a little bit, because I think we're gonna have ConAgra come down through there with their employees on that day.
2,000 people?
It'll be like 1,500. But ConAgra is gonna bring their nurses down to help us.
13th.
It's a Saturday. So,
Is that going to include,
you guys can trade out with other board members if you want.
is that going to include, people that are,
65.
that have health issues?
No, we're working on the health systems to do another clinic down there, and it'll be a partnership with CHI Methodist and us, and we'll do a clinic down there for them, but it'll be staffed by Jenny and CHI.
I thought I saw somewhere, I had a couple of calls on it, that 18 plus with health conditions are in 1B.
Yes.
So they will be allowed to register for a shot.
Correct.
That's going to be done through Mercy and Jenny.
No, when we do this partnership, it sounds like they want to still utilize our website, so we'll utilize our software that Mint Chip built for us, Neapolitan Labs, at the Mac.
Okay. Awesome. Well done, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
Thanks, Maria. Okay, we just got the wellness one left,
Board of Supervisors.
and wellness.
Yours.
Okay, I think I gotta take my wife to a doctor's appointment in about an hour, so.
We can push it off, do it next meeting if you
No,
want.
this one,
Can we?
this one, what's that?
I mean, none of this has to be done today.
Well, I mean,
If you wanted to.
do you wanna do this?
I've got to, you guys, I've got to take care of some personal stuff,
You do?
you know, like a doctor's deal.
Okay,
So, I need to excuse myself.
is everybody okay with
You guys make that
pushing this off
decision.
till next meeting?
Yeah.
Do you guys want copies of what?
Yeah, let's do the copies.
This is just some things that Becky has filled in.
End of January, we should, I'd like to get.
Filled in that we've done in the
first
past.
review of everybody's budget.
Well, we just have ours and that's it. Right?
I think you're gonna have John come back in.
Right, but John's not, we don't know when he's gonna come back in,
This is his own fund too.
you know, he's quarantined.
We, this is Becky here. Becky Linehan's got the first draft of the board's budget where we filled in things that are like, we found in minutes, they're already approved.
I'll give you.
And then there's still a lot of holes though, that we thought we'd go through line by line. But if you move this to next week, we can finish that up, sure.
I want to move this to next week anyway. I want to talk to you about it offline.
Okay.
Whatever, that's
Let's-
okay.
Well, do you
It'll
want,
make sense to you.
do you wanna go at, 9:30 or 9 next week?
Yeah, that's fine. Go 8 in the morning, I don't care.
7:30 will work, whatever you want to do.
Just out of bed.
Do you wanna do Jana's right now? It won't take you long to do the wellness.
You wanna talk about wellness real fast?
You wanna knock out
Sorry?
wellness?
Let's talk about the wellness one real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, let's knock it out. We can take this board one with us. You got something for us? Wellness?
They don't have a, I mean, they just have a line item.
Okay.
Jana's on the
Where's the
agenda.
line item at? Whose budget is it in?
Comes out of gaming, it's in the board's budget.
Board's budget.
Excuse
Where-
me.
Oh, okay, what page, where is it? General basic?
It comes out of gaming.
It's on page 5.
Page 5. Wellness committee, $3,000.
Wellness program.
Wellness program, 25.
On page 5.
Yeah. About 6th and 7th line down. Is that the two numbers we're looking at?
Says 25,000.
Yep. Stayed,
So this is pulled as of,
stayed the same as of 1/26.
okay, so 7 months worth.
Stayed the same.
There's a line item below wellness committee expenses.
Yeah. Haven't spent anything this year.
So you're on track if you're looking at year-to-date activity, so we're ahead, which means we're on track to be spending closer to like 30 grand.
30 grand, is that what you said?
Well, it says 17.
17, if you do 7 months of that, you know, that's $2,500, and then you take 2,500 times 12, and that's
Yeah,
gonna
'cause
get you.
I think that the large amount is for
We've
locked-in
never
contract.
We've never spent the 25.
Yeah, and so with the piece that we're, specifically looking at is the small amount that the wellness committee themselves has, which is the $3,000.
We were at 2,000, we've never spent 2, why are we going to 3?
We had, so last year, we had a fun run, and that took a lot of our budget. And so we thought, well, if we were gonna have something like that again, then we wanted to increase it a little bit. But then the timing of the expenditures, when we got the credit card and things like that, did not line up, so it's not clear. So we are saying that should go down. We'd like to take it back to 2,000.
Since we're doing it this year.
You want to take it back to 2,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me. I mean,
Well, yeah.
I think that if we get our employees to participate in the wellness program, we give them a free membership to the county parks for the year, we give them whatever. I think that's awesome, so.
Project-wise, what we had done in the past was put on our own projects and then man them and staff them and do a whole bunch of things for them. And it's very labor intensive. And so one of the things we've been looking at changing to was someone else that has these activities all planned and ready to go, and we can just encourage people and support them through that process. One of the ones that we're looking at this year is through the Wellbeing Partners, which is one of the organizations the health department's a member of, and they have activities lined out throughout the year for.
How do you win the weight loss challenge, Maria?
Do you want to do that again? We could.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Wow.
Okay, got a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it
You got a second?
for discussion.
Okay.
Might get Tim to join the 5K with me for the fun run.
You know what, if I get a couple, never mind.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign.
Okay.
Hearing none,
Are we
motion
off?
passes. Yep, no, not yet.
Just hit enter on that.